Okay. Here we go. Okay. Good. Oh, maybe it's already starting. Switching UAU. Main.
Two, this is one. Radio check on uniform. How copy?
2 has you, Lima Charlie. Awesome, let's get the ATIS up at 270.1. Also, Ops is going to be calling ahead to tower for us in the steps, so don't bother calling for startup anymore. After you've got the ATIS, get the HQ up and contact me on 32.5. Oh, and one last thing to remember. You've got all the frequencies noted down on your keyboard, so if in doubt, make sure you check there, okay?
Roger, Wilco.
Okay, let's first get the ATIS pinned. Pin. ATIS 270.1.
Expect visual approach. Acknowledge receipt of information kilo and advise aircraft type on first contact. Nellis Air Force Base information kilo, time 0115. Wind 028 at 10. Visibility greater than 10 miles. Clear. Temperature 26. Dew point 13. Altimeter 2959. Runways in U03 left, 21 left. Expect visual approach. Acknowledge receipt of information kilo and advise aircraft type on first contact. Nellis Air Force Base information kilo, time 0115. Wind 028 at 10. Visibility greater than 10 miles. Clear. Temperature 26. Dew point 13. Altimeter 2959. Runways in U03 left, 21 left. Expect visual approach. Acknowledge receipt of information kilo and advise aircraft type on first contact. Nellis Air Force Base information kilo, time 0115. Wind 028 at 10. Visibility greater than 10 miles. Clear. Temperature 26. Dew point 13. Altimeter 2959. Runways in U03 left, 21 left. Expect visual approach.
21 left.
Acknowledge receipt of information kilo and advise aircraft type on first contact. Nellis Air Force Base information kilo, time 0115. Wind 028 at 10. Visibility greater than 10 miles. Clear. Temperature 26. Dew point 13.
Okay, let's go.
Altimeter 2959. Runways in U03 left.
Let's go to ground 275.8.
Expect visual approach. Acknowledge receipt of information.
Firewave view, contact BIF at 32.5. Okay. Why am I not hearing my radios? Take 10. Take 1.
Biff, this is 1. Radio check, Fox Mike.
I get you 5x5, Kermit. Hey, while we're at it, let's see if Victor works fine. Push 124.6, and let me know once you're there.
Pushing 124.6. And there. Ready.
Oops.
Okay, double 2, radio check, Victor.
Roger, read you Lima Charlie.
Very good. Go ahead and finish your startup and hit me up when you're ready for taxi.
Okay.
Yeah, copy that.
This is start number 1. Okay, I'm not going through all of that again. I will set TAC and Alice 1 to X-ray. So my CDU, it's initializing. Okay, it's all looking good. That. Let's go manual. What am I doing? Group ID 090 0402. Fuel set station and 119 130 landing wet. Okay, runway. Was it 2-1 left? Okay, let's go for number 1. This is okay. It's is on. Okay, go for 2. Okay. Two 2959. Okay.
One is ready for taxi.
Copy. Let me contact ground and let them know we're good to go.
Raj.
Let's go to ground.
Health ground, Devil.
2758.
Go for ground, Devil.
Yep.
Double 1 flight is 2 A-10s at Thunder, ready for taxi with Kilo. Devil 1, taxi Charlie, Golf, Alpha, hold short 03 Lima, cleared to cross 03 Romeo. Taxi Charlie, Golf, Alpha, cleared to cross 03 right and hold short 03 left, Devil 1.
03 left.
Alright, Kermit, you're going to lead this one again. You're going to be doing a lot of navigation stuff on this sortie, so I'm going to sit conveniently behind you, just watch how you're doing. Cool?
Roger that.
Okay.
Great, go ahead and taxi to the active as instructed, and I'll follow you out. Solid copy.
Zero 03 left. So I didn't hear it correctly. Okay. Brakes.
One, taxi out.
Charlie Golf Alpha. Okay. Wait, let me set my Squawk 4012.
And two's rolling.
Okay, let's go.
Ground, Devil 3 flight, 2 A-10s at Thunder, ready for taxi, Kilo.
Devil 3, taxi Charlie, Golf, Alpha, cleared to cross 03 Romeo. Hold short 03 Lima.
Ground, taxi Charlie, Golf, Alpha, cross 03 Romeo, hold short 03 Lima, Devil 3.
No traffic.
Looks like those Eagles are getting ready for a pretty big mission.
Yep. I assume if we go back to the Persian Gulf, the Eagles are going to be one of the first aircraft in, right behind Seed after they clear past. More than likely, they're going to be hitting command center, staging areas, and supply lines.
Just like they did in Iraq. But if I remember correctly, back then they were just entering service. They didn't even have targeting pods installed on all the jets. They dropped a lot of Mark 82s under a constant hail of enemy AAA. I've read a few books, and everyone was amazed about the sheer volume of what Saddam had on the ground.
That was a trial by fire for the F-15E and her crews. Some of their missions were pretty hairy, others weren't so bad. This time will be different, though, if we go back to that side of the world. Both sides will be using a lot more precision-guided munitions like
Let's go
payways
to
and
Alpha.
That is, until it's safe enough to get low and dirty with the gun. In a conflict like this, our enemy is going to be better equipped and prepared, unlike what we're seeing in OEF and OIF.
Raj, so much for the you don't need the oxygen mask part.
Devil 1-2, contact tower at 327.7. Roger, contact your tower at 327.7.
traffic. The correct frequency. Okay.
1, holding short, 03 left and up on tower.
Three to 7.2.
Alright, Kermit, go ahead and enter the active, and without stopping, get lined up and feed the power in and take off. Watch the instruments and reject the takeoff if you need to. I'll be a few seconds behind you.
Raj.
In the green, release.
1, rolling.
Two's rolling.
What was that?
1, gear up.
Okay, maintain that 5-degree climb out and look for 180 knots.
Raj.
5-degree climb. 180 knots.
Delta 1, Nellis Tower, contact departure 385.4 Alpha Mike. Okay, Kermit, push Nellis departure on uniform. I know it's a lot of jumping between different freaks. Perhaps we should go over using preset channels in one of the upcoming sorties.
That sounds handy.
Yeah.
Okay, let me know when you have your uniform up on departure.
1 is ready. Departure is set on uniform.
Departure, 3
Nellis
and 5.
departure, Double 1 flight is with you over Apex, climbing for 10,000 feet. Double 1, Nellis departure, radar contact. Clear to resume on navigation. Clear for on navigation, Double 1. Alright, let's climb to Angel 10, speed up and maintain 220 indicated.
1, climbing to Angels 10 and maintaining 220 indicated.
220 indicated.
Alright, Kermit, on the way to Mofa, let's go over some of the differences between the Alpha and Charlie concerning your navigation systems and how you use them for, wait for it, navigation. As you probably noticed, there are quite a few.
A-firm. The left panel looks similar, engine controls too. But almost everything else in the cockpit, including the stick, is different. It took quite some time in the sim to get a handle on that.
Interesting.
Yeah, about that stick, which is taken from the Viper, by the way. It's going to be imperative through the course of this training to learn HOTAS in such a way that when I say TMS up short or pinky switch center, as I was, your fingers do what they need to do instinctively. You're going to need to be very proficient in your switchology in the Charlie. The HOTAS is a force multiplier if you can use it without having to stop too much and think about what you need to do. If you have to think on every button pressed or where the boat switch is, you're going to get behind the jet. I asked during the briefing to include the schematics in your keyboard for reference, so if you're unsure, just use that, okay?
Thanks.
This.
If I need it, I'll flip over to it. So, where do we start on the nav?
Cool, and with that I'll get off my soapbox. Okay, back to the task at hand. We'll quickly go through the main instruments and panels used for navigation. So we'll start with the navigation mode select panel, or NMFP, and talk about the HSI, ADI, and then turn to the right console and talk about the auxiliary avionics panel, or AAP. We will also cover the basics of the Autopilot and HUD today and focus in a bit more on the details tomorrow. Ready?
I'm all ears.
Display.
Alright, so first the NMFP, which you will find behind the aforementioned stick. Here you will choose the primary source used for your navigation. Your two sources are HARS, also known as Heading and Altitude Reference System, or the DIGI, the GPS INS navigation system. You can also quickly switch between the different points you will want to use as your destination or reference, such as Steerpoint, Anchor Point, TAC-N, or ILS. Good so far?
Yeah, we had something similar in the A-10A.
Okay, gotcha. So the HSI, or heading selector indicator, is located just above it, and I guess it didn't change that much. I'd say this is one of the most useful instruments, and it has a lot of features, which will make your life easier both during flying from point A to B and during combat. We'll be returning to it in quite a few forthcoming sorties. Ready to move on?
Yeah.
A-firm.
Oh.
I saw quite a few new cool features in the sim.
Good, I'm sure you'll love them. Okay, moving back up, you'll find the ADI, or Attitude Directional Indicator. This is your artificial horizon and will be very useful for your ILS landing, amongst other things.
Raj.
On to the right console. Obviously, the most important piece of navigation equipment we have over here is going to be the CDU. It is one of the more advanced and complex pieces of equipment we have in the Charlie. Did you take your time and go through the descriptions of all the pages and functions?
Options. Take 10. Take 1.
Yeah, I read all of it.
Really, no shit. Well, during a normal sort, you will be using less than 10% of it, but it's good that you did it, and you should do it at least once. There are true jewels hidden between all the bit and test pages, which we'll come back to that. Okay, so just below the CDU, you will find the AAP, where you will power up the CDU and IGI. The two dials below are handy for quickly displaying CDU info about your Steerpoint, Waypoint, or current position, and for determining whether you will be using the Waypoint database for your flight plan, mark points, or all of it. Take a look at these.
Okay, sounds easy enough.
Level 1, contact Blackjack at 377.8. Shit! Kermit, I've got this. Stand by. Roger, double 1 switching. Good day. See ya. Follow me over to 377.8. and I'll explain in a bit.
Raj.
Blackjack, 1-1 with you, South Mopa as frag.
Sam 1, Blackjack, radar contact, enter the X-ray, and continuous on navigation.
Enter through X-ray, 1-1. Sorry about that. I got all wrapped up in that CDU talk and didn't realize we're getting close to that turn for Waypoint 2.
No problem. What's next?
Just go ahead and follow the flight plan and make that turn towards Waypoint 2. Once you do that and are happy with your newfound knowledge, let me know and we'll move on with the training.
Display. Display. Okay. Let's go waypoint 1. Stay 220 indicated. Okay, Mopa. Switching to waypoint 2.
Warning, autopilot.
Is ready to move on.
Good. Alright, let's start with the HARS, IGI, and NMFP. There is no point discussing the first one. You should know it inside and out as it is the main navigation tool on the A model.
Sorry, but I have to disagree here. The main navigation tool was effective employment of the clocked and mapped ground skill, for which the INS is only a reference point. The drift was so high that without detailed maps of the terrain and careful study, we'd never be able to find our targets.
Shit, it was that bad then. Okay. Well, the bottom line is that the Charlie uses HARS only as a backup system. As stated in the Dash 1, the IGI navigation system is the aircraft's primary navigation system. It provides an accurate, worldwide navigation capability. The IGI navigation system improves navigation accuracy by use of the IGI. This system provides attitude, navigation, and vertical and horizontal steering information. Or something like that.
Sounds like you're reading straight from the Dash 1. But yeah, we have something similar in the A319s.
Right, of course you do. Oh, hey, by the way, during startup tomorrow, please remind me to tell you a little bit more about the different modes you can use for alignment. This is something important during the QRAs, which may be handy if you find yourself at this alert there in the AOR.
Raj, I'll try. But you may have to remind me to remind you.
Okay, sounds fair. Now on to the NMFP. Think of our 4 lower buttons as a way to tell your jet which reference you should be using for navigation. The most obvious and most commonly used one would be the Steerpoint button, which you'll find as the first one on the left. When selected, the button will have an illuminated green triangle, and the stick arrow on the HSI will be pointing towards your currently selected Steerpoint. I will show your deviation from the chosen course. You good so far?
Yeah, easy peasy.
Alright, the next one is your anchor point button. Again, when selected, you'll see the green illuminated triangle. The anchor point, which most commonly
Repeat this last. Ask why would one want to change anchor point from Bulls to another waypoint. Oh, sure. Take 10. Take 1.
Could you repeat the last part for me, please?
Alright, the next one is your anchor point button. Again, when selected, you'll see the green illuminated triangle. The anchor point, which most commonly is going to be Bullseye, will be used as a reference for your navigation, making it the current steer point. Remember, you can set any waypoint or mark point as the anchor. Any questions?
Anchor point button. Hey, where are you going? Oh, I'm slowing too much down, sorry. Why is that? Sorry. What is he talking about, an anchor point button? Take 10. Take 10. Take 1.
Yeah, why would I want to change anchor point from Bullseye to another waypoint?
Imagine you're working with ground troops and you want to be able to quickly locate targets called by them. You may want to set their position as an anchor point. Or you're working with assets from other countries that don't normally use MGRS coordinates. Say, for example, some French jets or maybe helicopters. Then you want to choose a waypoint that is common for both of you as the anchor point. You want more examples?
Nope, we can move on.
Okay, the following two buttons are mutually exclusive as they both use the CDI and range indicator on the HSI. The first one will make the thin bearing needle, also known as the bearing pointer 1, point to the TACAN station that you have tuned into on the TACAN panels. The second one will show you the glide slope information for the ILS localizer on the ADI.
Okay.
Alright, let's tune our TACAN into Chrome Lake at this time, so using the channel select knobs for the TACAN, now choose 1/8 X-ray. After you have done that, go ahead and check how pressing the TACAN button will change the way in which your HSI and HUD behaves. There's no point doing the same for ILS as we're too far away from any airport, but once you're good to go,
Oh, he's
press
talking
the
about this
Steerpoint
thing.
button again, and let me know when we can move on.
Oh, I didn't know this. So now we were going towards my anchor. Steerpoint, TACAN, okay. 44 miles. What do you mean? It's fine. Let's see, does it work? Yeah. Take 10. Take 2.
Alright, I'm ready.
Okay, cool. We only have a few things left that we need to cover on the NMFP, so there's a switch called the PT bar switch. It's in the middle of the panel, and this will stow or enable the yellow pitch bank steering bars and the course warning flag on the ADI. There are also two lights on the right of the panel. They are for indicating the activation of the UHF and FM radio's homing function, respectively. These features make your radios an additional source of navigation by homing in on the signal transmitted on whatever frequency you should have dialed in. This is a handy feature which is most commonly used during CSAR missions. Anything else on the NMFP, or can we move on?
Yeah, what about the tizzle button?
Shit, forgot about that one. So Tizzle, well, we don't use it anymore.
Raj?
Another thing which I should have mentioned earlier is the difference between a waypoint and a steerpoint. So the CDU can store up to 2,050 waypoints, but unless one of them is selected as your steerpoint, no steering or navigational data will be displayed in your HUD, TAD, or HSI. So in a nutshell, the steerpoint is the waypoint or mark point you currently have selected, making it your destination. Make sense?
Absolutely.
Right on. Okay, another new feature for the Charlie is Autopilot. Actually, we should have covered it in the beginning, as it's very handy for you to fly straight and check all your instruments as I described them, but it seems you've already figured it out.
Actually, we had it on the Alpha.
What?
The Autopilot. Last he was introduced on the later versions of the A-10A.
Roger. Anyhow, it's on my list, so we need to go through it. So fireworks here, it's as simple as it gets. The Autopilot switch is located just below the throttle set on the AC control panel and has three basic functions that will enable you to keep your current altitude, heading, or both. Let's go through the Autopilot's three functions one by one. Ready?
Yeah, ready.
Can't wait.
So starting with the basic mode, which you're going to find pretty useful for cruising, we need to make sure that we're flying straight and level or pretty near it. Then we'll put the Autopilot switch in the middle position marked ALT-HDG for altitude and heading hold, and press the button marked Engage, Disengage located just to the left of it. You can also use the button on the left throttle, and one last thing before I forget, you should make sure that the jet is pretty well trimmed out before you set the Autopilot. If you're too far out of trim, it will make the Autopilot disco, which is a bit annoying. And with that, go ahead and engage the Autopilot and let me know once you got her on.
Autopilot is engaged.
You'll see the indication that the Autopilot is on the left side of the HUD, and you should get the chime in the helmet indicating that your Autopilot is engaged. This mode is useful for cruising, especially if you fly in the lead position or are in route formation. It should go without saying, but never use any Autopilot mode when flying in close formation as a wingman. Great. On to the second mode. Place the Autopilot switch in the forward position marked Pass.
Done.
Cool. Notice that the Autopilot has not reacted to being put into pass hold. Flipping the mode switch while keeping the Autopilot engaged does nothing. It will stay in whatever mode the switch was in when you engaged it. Now disengage the Autopilot by pressing either button. After that, while keeping your wings level, pitch your nose up and give me a 5-degree climb. Once we're in that climb, re-engage the Autopilot.
Okay, done that. 5-degree climb and Autopilot is back on.
Good. This mode will hold the desired path or heading while allowing you to put the aircraft into a climb or descent. Path hold will not hold bank, it does not like rolls, so always make sure that the aircraft is well trimmed. Okay, let me know when you want to move on to the third and final mode.
2 is ready.
Right on. This time we're going to force the Autopilot to disengage without hitting any buttons. I want you to gently but firmly push the nose over, and you should feel the Autopilot try to right the aircraft
Warning,
initially.
Autopilot.
Then it gives up and kicks off. Do that now.
Okay, it disconnected.
Perfect. So as you can see, you can add in small, minute manual control inputs while Autopilot is engaged. But anything much more than that, the Autopilot will disco. Now this is handy if you need to make quick, split-second reactionary maneuvers. Then you don't have to think about and take the time to hit a button to disconnect the Autopilot.
Huh, imagine that.
Sweet.
Yeah, done.
Cool. This is a very useful mode for when you want to prepare for an attack, scan the area, or when you just need to anchor. Your plane will hold a set altitude and bank angle, which will allow you to direct a bit of your attention onto other things, like searching for and sorting targets at the TGP, working on CDU stuffing things, or a myriad of other tasks.
It certainly is useful, but compared to the A319, it's pretty primitive. With the 319, we've got 4 layers of autopilot, auto thrust, and computer control flight modes.
I heard about that, yeah? What we have on the HARS is really simple, but it does its job. Now to finish this part, onto the restrictions. In order to engage the autopilot, you need to have the EAC switch set to on. That has to be engaged. IFC needs to be in the test or on position, and the ICI must be fully aligned and selected.
Okay, got that.
Sweet. I think using the autopilot is pretty straightforward. Okay, turn back towards Waypoint 2. Practice a bit using the different modes and let me know when you're ready to move on.
Okay, 2 is good to go.
Okay, on the front dash you'll find the HSI. The HSI is a very useful, if not the most useful, navigation instrument. It is located in exactly the same spot it was in the A model, on the center dash and just below the ADI. When you're reading through the manual, you probably saw a huge number of different functions and pointers described there. It's all crammed in that little small space, but trust me, sooner or later you will use all of them. Okay, ready?
Let's get to it.
Alright, starting from the center you will see a static white aircraft symbol there. This is very important to note that all of the indications are relative to this symbol. The outer ring of the HSI is where you'll find the rotating compass card with the top of the compass showing your magnetic heading. Additionally, you'll notice a thin lever line extending straight up and back down from the aircraft symbol. Finally, on the outside of the compass card you have 2 pointers, one thin and long and the other one short and thick. The longer, thinner one is labeled as 1 and the shorter, thicker one is 2. You can see the markings on the pointy ends. Still with me?
Yep, go on.
Okay, just checking. I know this is a lot, it's pretty dry. Alright, back to it. So the shorter one always points to the currently selected Steerpoint. The longer one will point towards the selected TACAN or UHF station. Now both needles are stowed together if you have neither of these set. Don't turn your plane just yet, but cycle to Waypoint 3 please. You can do that by making your HUD soy and pressing DMS up once, or using the Steerpoint rocker switch on your upfront controller or the UFC. Once you've done that, observe the movement of the thick arrow, then switch to Waypoint 4, and finally go back to 3. Let me know when you've done that.
It behaves in a similar manner as it did on the A model.
Yeah, it's pretty standard, but it really shines when you use it in combination with the CDU. Before we move on, let's turn towards Waypoint 3 before we get to Canada, eh?
Okay, we are turned towards Waypoint 3. Okay.
Warning, autopilot.
Devil 1's on the new course, ready to continue.
Good. You'll see that the bearing needle points directly towards waypoint 3. However, the middle part of the arrow is way to the left. This is the course deviation indicator, which tells you how closely you are following the desired course. Since we turned long before reaching waypoint 2, we are left of the desired flight path, and the CDI is to the right from the bearing needle. Don't worry about it too much, as we'll cover it in detail tomorrow. Actually, it may be that your CDI is all the way to the right. If that's the case, just switch your waypoint back to 2 and then return to waypoint 3. Now the CDI should be on the correct side. This is all connected with the waypoint attributes, and as I've said, this is for tomorrow's training. Where was I? Yes. 2 dots to the left and the right are used to show you how far away from the desired course you currently are, and the scale can be set in the waypoint attributes. Now on to the 2 knobs below the HSI. The left one is called the heading set knob, and it moves the heading marker around the compass. The marker looks like 2 closely set white squares. You can use it to mark a number of things like the wind direction or desired attack heading. It's not connected to any other instruments and has to be set manually. Go ahead and check it now and let me know when you're ready to move on.
This seems quite handy. The second knob is the course set knob, right?
Correct. It allows you to set the selected course in the window on the top right and move the course arrow around the compass card. You'll want to use it when setting up for landing or if you want to arrive at a specific waypoint coming from a certain direction, which we will cover and talk about when we get to the waypoint attributes.
Copy that. And the numeric window on the top left is the range indicator.
Affirm, given in nautical miles. So the last thing we need to cover here are the 2 small triangles just next to the aircraft symbol and along the intended course line. They indicate the course the aircraft will fly to or away from the selected TACAN station or Steerpoint. Ready for the next part?
Yes, 2 is good to go.
Alright, man. Now that we've got some of the things up front figured out, let's move over to the right console and dip into the CDU, starting with the AAP panel, which controls it.
Sounds good.
Alright, so
Okay.
let's move over to the AAP panel now, which you're going to find just below the CDU. We'll start with the knob on the right, known as the page select dial. By default, it should be set to the other position, which enables data input into the CDU, while the other 3 positions are for read only. These selections will allow minor changes to what is displayed, but you would be unable to edit anything. So the important thing to remember here is, if you want to change any waypoint settings or attributes, this knob has to be in the other position. Copy?
Yep. Other for display and the rest is for data editing. Got it.
Whoa, let's back it up there, high speed. Other is for editing, and all the remaining selections are for display. You had it backwards.
Sorry about that. I copied all, but my mouth is quicker than my brain sometimes.
Well, so long as we got it now. Okay, so now let's go ahead and check the position and steer settings using the page select rotary dial. In the position setting, you'll see a lot of useful information displayed on the CDU and CDU repeater if you have it pulled up on an MFCD. Position will display your current location in both lat long and MGRS, your speed, magnetic variation, altitude, and outside air temperature. You can cycle between indicated true and ground speed here, as well as Celsius and Fahrenheit for the temperature. Any questions at this stage?
Let's try that again, because I'm not seeing. That's right. So I press steer, but I'm not getting. Take 10. Take 10. Take 1.
Could you repeat the last part for me, please?
Well, so long as we got it now. Okay, so now let's go ahead and check the position and steer settings using the selector rotary dial. In the position setting, you'll see a lot of useful information displayed on the CDU and CDU repeater if you have it pulled up on the NMFP. Position will display your current location in both lat long and MGRS, your speed, magnetic variation, altitude, and outside air temperature. You can cycle between indicated true and ground speed here, as well as Celsius and Fahrenheit for the temperature. Any questions at this stage?
No, I have no questions. Take 10. Take 10. Take 3.
So magnetic variation is around 12 degrees in these parts?
Hey firm, I realize you probably already know all of this, but since you asked, I'll go over it anyway. So magnetic variation is the difference between magnetic north, or the direction a magnetic compass needle points to, and true north, which is the direction along the meridian towards the North Pole. If it's east from true north, then it is positive, and if it is west, then the deviation is negative. So you'll notice on some missions, other assets will give you bullseye calls using true north rather than magnetic. When this happens, you'll have to add or subtract the variation from the given heading in order to create an offset point.
Take 10. Take 10. Take 10. Take 3.
I don't believe so. We can go ahead and move on.
Alright, staying on the AAP, the steer setting will give you all of the important information about your current steer point. The image in the left column shows the image, or desired magnetic heading, which is wind corrected. Below that, you will find the distance, elevation, and bearings of the steer point, which can also be changed to show the radial from the steer point on which you currently fly.
Okay.
Got it.
The right column shows time to go and desired time on target. The second option is especially useful if you want to coordinate with other assets. Plan on practicing it in one of the coming sources. If you set up a desired time on target, you will also be shown a speed required to arrive at exactly the specified time. Finally, you can see the current wind strength and direction. Have a look at it and let me know when you're ready to move on.
Okay, ready to move on.
Now on to the Waypoint info page. Go ahead and switch your AAP page select switch to this position and let me know when you're there.
Done.
So this is a handy way to display the magnetic heading, distance, and time to go to 3 different points. Top right will show that information for the currently set waypoint. Bottom right is for the anchor point, while the bottom left gives you information about the steer point. The lines on the left side allow you to select the waypoint or mark point by either entering its number or letter, or by using the scratch pad to type in the name. And that's all for the right knob. When you're ready, let me know and we'll move on to the steer point dial.
Okay.
Okay, good to go.
Okay, now we will briefly cover the flight plan fundamentals. So take a look at the left selector knob on the AAP. This is known as the Steerpoint dial, and it should be in the flight plan position. In this mode, you will see the whole flight plan displayed on the TAD, with waypoints connected by a green line. These green lines connecting waypoints together are known as waypoint lines for some weird reason. You may need to decrease the scale of your TAD or zoom out to see the entire flight plan. Now, in order to do so, you first have to make it soy by long pressing the coolie hat on your throttle to the left or right, depending on which MFP is currently displaying the TAD. Or you can soy the TAD by pressing whichever OSB corresponds to where it says TAD. After you have the TAD set as soy, then press down on the data management switch, or DMS down, on the stick to increase the range and zoom out. Conversely, pressing up will decrease the range. So I'd like you to now move the zoom out on the TAD until you can see your flight plan in its entirety, and give me a heads up when you're caught up.
It's there. Let me zoom in, zoom out.
Okay, I decreased the scale of the TAD to the point that I can see my entire flight plan.
Right on. The CDU will default into automatic flight plan sequencing. In this mode, the waypoints will automatically switch to the next one once you pass the previous one. There are applications where this is not desirable, and we'll go over them later on. Following so far?
Yep.
Yeah, if I'm tracking, and as I understand it, in this mode, the TAD will only display waypoints that are part of the flight plan, right? Even if I have more waypoints stored in the CDU?
Exactly. Remember that the system can store up to 2,050 waypoints, with those numbered 1 through 50 called mission waypoints. The rest, numbering 51 through 2,050, are called navigation waypoints. You'll notice that part of the navigation waypoints are already assigned to airfields and cannot be edited, but we'll get back to that on tomorrow's sortie. On top of all that, we also have our mark points, which are labeled with letters.
I don't have a TGP.
While allowing you to use 25 of the available 26 letters. Oh, and one more thing to remember, that when in flight plan mode, you will only be able to move through the waypoints which are part of the flight plan. So you won't be able to set anything that is not in the flight plan as your steer point.
Copy.
Why can't you use all 26?
I didn't catch that. One more time, please.
Yeah, why can we use only 25 out of 26?
I guess that I should have said you can only add up to 25 mark points manually. Mark point Zulu is set automatically as a marker for the site of your last weapons deployment. Mark point Z is a very handy thing, but that is a lesson for another day.
Okay, copy that.
Now, if you want to display mark points, you're going to need that left selector knob in the middle position labeled, you guessed it, mark. You should not have any mark points stored in the system at this point, but we'll cover their use on another sortie, as they are mostly used for marking targets.
Alright, got it.
The third position is marked mission, and it will give you access to your entire waypoint database. Go ahead and move the switch into the mission position now, please.
Done.
Good. Take a look at your TAD. You'll see the green line has disappeared, and all of the mission waypoints are shown. Now, we haven't added any additional waypoints to those that were part of your original flight plan, so the total number remains the same. As you can see, the navigation waypoints are not displayed in this mode, but you can cycle through them. There are many ways to do that, but we'll use the remaining button on the AAP, which we have not covered so far, the Steerpoint toggle switch. By pressing it up or down, you can change your selected steer point. Go ahead and cycle it up until you get Nellis.
Yeah, am I supposed to do that? Let me do it up here.
Okay, Nellis has set us my steer point now.
Word. To wrap up today's training, Sorty, let's talk about the HUD. Before we do that, though, let's turn back towards Sally. So pull up and turn towards Waypoint 4. Return to Angel 10, and let's try and keep 220 and steady, please.
Waypoint 4. $10,000, 220 indicated.
Two is on course for MOPA and at Angels 10. Let's talk about those HUD things.
Fair enough. So I left this lesson for the end. I don't think there's a big difference between the HUD and the Alpha and Charlie, so we can go over it pretty quickly. Still, I have to go through the parts important for navigation just to be sure no stones are left unturned. So when you're ready, let's do it.
Yes, 2 is ready.
Alright, here we go. First, let's talk about the total velocity vector, or TVV, which looks like a circle with 3 lines extending outward. It shows the aircraft's inertial velocity vector, or, using English, the point towards which the aircraft is heading, hence its other name, flight path marker.
Copy. I'm aware of both names for it.
Good deal. Then you probably already also know that in windy conditions, and especially with a high crosswind component, the TVV may skew to one side of the HUD. This is completely normal, and it tells you this plane is not going in the direction which the nose is pointing.
Yeah, copy.
Okay, the flight path ladder and heading tape do not need any further explanation. On the left, you can see your airspeed, which depending on the settings can be displayed as indicated. Ground speed, indicated by a letter G, or true airspeed, which will have a letter T displayed next to it. Now, on the right side of the HUD, you'll see the barometric altitude in feet. In nav and air-to-air mode, it will also show you the uncorrected CACD reading. In CCIP and CCRP modes, it will be corrected for installation errors, non-standard temperatures, and non-standard pressures, and may be different to what the cockpit altimeter shows. Below it, you'll find a flight path angle, which shows you the rate of descent or ascent in degrees. Further below that, you will find the radar altimeter, which shows the exact altitude over the ground up to 5,000 feet. If you are higher, it will just display 4 X's. Any questions?
Oh, let's see. Take 10. Master modes? No, I don't need. Take 4.
Ready to move on.
Okay, with speed and altitude covered, we need to move on. Make sure you're in nav mode if you would, please. Your steer point is shown as a small square on your HUD. You'll also notice that there is a line extending from the TVV towards it. If the steer point is outside of the HUD field of view, the designation cue will change. Go ahead and turn 90 degrees to the left and observe the marking on your HUD, and let me know what you can see.
90 to the left, reference south.
Steerpoint square now has a number above and below it, and it's just sitting on the side of the HUD. And the line coming out of the box is now attached to the TVV.
Yep. Okay, that line is pointing in the direction towards the Steerpoint off of the TVV. This line is known as the C line. It is worth noting that the C line is not exclusive to the TVV and Steerpoint, but that's a lesson for another time. Okay, so the box that is nailed to the side of the HUD is showing you which side of the jet the Steerpoint is on. The number at the top is how many degrees off that side the Steerpoint is, and the bottom number represents how many miles you are away from that Steerpoint. So for instance, if that box was on the right side of my HUD and had a 120 on top and 13 below, I'd know that the Steerpoint is off by 4 o'clock and 13 miles behind me. Okay, return to course now please, and let me know when we can continue.
Oh, where's X-ray? That was the... Oh, there is X-ray.
Two's on course.
Good. On to the final part. So some more information can be found in the bottom right corner of the HUD pertaining to our Steerpoint. And that's going to be just below the radar altimeter. The first line shows the Steerpoint number and ID. As I've told you before, numbers from 1 to 50 are reserved for mission waypoints. 51 to 2050 are for navigation waypoints. And letters A to Z are for mark points. And the ID is going to be whatever you've named that waypoint, like Vincent, IP, or whatever, okay?
Yep, copy that.
The second line shows distance to Steerpoint and target elevation. The first part is self-explanatory. The second one we'll cover in detail during weapons training, but for now, it's showing the elevation source as DCS. We can manually input our target's elevation, which will be displayed instead of DCS.
Alright.
The third line shows you time to go and time on target delta. Time to go simply shows how long it will take you to arrive at the Steerpoint with your current speed. Time on target delta will only work if you have set the desired time on target, which is something we're going to be covering tomorrow.
Looks like tomorrow's sortie will be pretty intensive.
Yes, we'll do a lot of practical exercises. On the ground, you'll build your own flight plan, and then in the air, we'll practice changing waypoint attributes, creating new waypoints and mark points, changing anchor points, and using the desired time on target function.
I can't wait.
Just make sure you're well prepared and read all the operating manuals for navigation, okay?
Yeah, copy.
Okay, the last line shows the current time, but it can also be used for a time hack. This is a good way to synchronize actions with other assets and may be used in combination with desired time on target or separately. However, it's a bit counterintuitive when you use it for the first time, so let's go through the process before trying it out. Ready?
Alright, I'm ready.
We will do a 1-minute hack, so press the hack button once and type 0100 on your keypad, then press enter on your USB. Once you do that, press hack again to return to normal mode. The system will now remember the last value you put in, so if you press the hack button again, it will show it on the HUD and immediately start counting down in the background. In the remaining time, you should press enter. If you want to start over, press hack again. Are you following? hack, just press the hack button once, then enter to see the remaining time. Give it a try a couple of times and let me know when you're ready.
Take 10. Take 10. Take 2.
Okay, good to go.
Alright, 3, 2, 1, hack. Okay, when we get to 0, I will change the formation to trail, meaning that I'll go behind you, okay?
Sounds fun.
What are you now then? You're already in trail. So that was 20 seconds, so we should count another 40. Let's just have a look. That's in. Another 10 seconds.
Now.
We do.
Alright, return to normal mode, press the hack button again. Hey, good job today, Kermit. Alright, time to go home.
Okay. What brake does he have?
Warning, autopilot.
Okay. Let's go home. Steerpoint. Is the truck stop? Okay. So the heck is same as the countdown which we have here, but it is a programmable stopwatch, if I understood it correctly. Okay, let's speed this up.
Yeah, I know they were tested in Nevada. I also heard a lot about the A+.
Yeah, I heard that as well. Some kind of project going on in parallel with Charlie. It's started by the National Guard, right?
A firm. It's a longer story, though.
Hold that thought. I need to clear us out of this airspace. Stand by one.
Blackjack on UHF 377.8.
Blackjack, double one is west of MOPA, looking to exit the training area and join the approach for Nellis.
Devil 1, exit via X-ray. Contact approach at 291.725.
Exit through X-ray and contact approach, double one. Okay, Kermit, make sure to tell me all about the A+ at Charlie one day. Not now, though. We're coming up to MOPA. Hey, since you're in a flight lead position, I want you to take over comms with Nellis, alright? Also, it looks like Approach is going to have us shooting single ship approaches as SOP from now on, so anticipate them having you drop me off at the truck stop for the rest of our time here. Cool?
Opa.
Sure, happy to do so. And copy about the approach procedure. Let me check the current ATIS, and then let's contact approach. Let me know when you're ready.
Raj.
Check the ATIS and go to approach.
Two standing by on approach.
One copies.
270.1.
Mike, time 0155. Wind 028 at 10. Visibility greater than 10 miles. Clear. Temperature 26. Dew point 13. Altimeter 2959. Runways in 203 left. 21 left. Expect visual approach. Acknowledge receipt of information
21
like
left.
an advised aircraft type on first contact. Nellis Air Force Base information Mike, time 0155. Wind 028 at 10.
291.75.
Visibility greater than 10.
Okay.
Approach Devil 1 west of Moapa inbound for landing with information Mike.
Devil 1 approach. Radar contact. Continue inbound. Expect a visual for 21 left.
Continue inbound for runway 21 left, Devil 1.
Okay. Let's make our turn, follow the highway.
Devil 1, descend and maintain 5,000.
Descend and maintain 5,000, Devil 1.
Send and maintain 5,000. Speed's down. Speed's on 10 degrees. Pass truck stop. Okay. Stay at 220 knots. Let's keep it 250. To one left. Okay.
Warning, autopilot.
Let's pass through the truck stop.
Double 12, enter a right-hand orbit over the truck stop spacing.
Approach, double 12 copies, anchored over the truck stop, right-hand orbit.
Double 1, contact tower at 3277, good day.
Roger, contact tower for Devil 1. See ya.
Contact tower 3277.
Dallas Tower, Devil 1-1, runway 21 left, full stop.
Devil 1-1, wind is 028 for 10, check landing gear, clear to land, runway 21 left.
Cleared to land, 21 left, Devil 1-1.
Landing lights. Okay. 1 left. Six. There we go. There's IP. Okay, lower my speed. miles. Put some speed brakes. Let's go in 3 degrees. Gear down. Let's go 150 knots. Flap 7%. Okay, flaps full. It's for the ballooning. There we go. Let's go for 130. Haze is coming. Okay. Increase my speed just a little bit. Okay, trim. Increase my speed. Trim. 120 it is.
Altitude, altitude.
Okay. There.
Okay, I'm safe on the deck.
Speed brakes.
Raj, taxi it back to Thunder and I'll catch up with you there.
Okay.
Devil 1-1 contact ground on 257.8.
Roger, contacting ground on 257.8, Devil 1-1.
257.8.
Nellis Tower, double 12 on final for runway 21, full stop.
Devil 1-2, wind star 028 for 1.
257.8. Oh. Okay. Close here, flaps.
Okay, 1, proceed with the after landing, then shutdown procedure. Good job today. Make sure you get ready for tomorrow's sortie. We'll cover a lot of practical stuff.
Roger, can't wait.
That's the spirit. Okay, that's it for today. Thanks, Kermit. Oh, one more thing. We need to knock out your ILS stuff, and weather is saying we may get some nasty in the coming days. If we get some soup, expect to scrub whatever we have planned to take advantage of that rare non-sunny day for your ILS stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, see you, boss. And thanks.
So why did it not contact ground? Okay, I'll just...
Okay, we're coming up to Alpha, push 327.7, past 03 to right, stop short of 03 to left at the hold line, and let me know when you're ready for takeoff. I'll contact tower.
What? What are you talking about? I'll just go this way, because the truck is in the way. Okay, honest landing. Okay. Let's put my after landing checklist. Throttle speed, anti-skid, off. That's I should have done it on the taxi canopy. I'm not doing canopy. ILS stack in. Let's just close this up. ILS wasn't done. Exterior lights. Steady is fine. Anti-collision off. Formation light is on. It's off. Steady off. Landing taxi lights in taxi. It was already IFF standby. Standby. It's all off. Off. Seat not armed. Pitot heat. Flaps are closed. ICU power. What's the ICU? Scorpion. ICU power. Is it my hammocks? It's off. IFF is engine shutdown. IFF off. Gauge. Steering indicator HS Canpack save. It was already done. TGP is off. Hot as desired. KQ actuators. CC off. MFDs off. Aggie and CDO. Aggie. Left throttle off. Right throttle off. Inverter off. Battery switch off. Communication equipment off. Oxygen light. Oxygen supply. Let's open this thing. Oxygen is off. Emergency floodlights. It's off. Boarding letter. Okay. That's it. Okay, nice.